that a letter club pin? A letter club bike club?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
Now I feel underdressed. Hey, Joel, you're coming up tomorrow.
Actually, not coming. I've already emailed them.
You're not?
I've got some unexpected stuff that's got to happen. So I emailed them last night. Do my best. Team is real tough. I would have never heard of that because I did look at it.
Good morning, everyone. It is so great to see so many of you from Belleville. I don't know that I've seen you individually a lot of times at events, but to have so many people from Belleville and so much history in this room right now is amazing. So one little tidbit as I welcome you, I just want to share with you, this is the probably almost last real event we will have in this auditorium as it is. We are going to be refurbishing the auditorium this summer with new seats, new carpet, new sound system, and updating it. So this is such a used facility. So this is kind of a special time for a very last event, and so proud that it is the Wall of Fame. On behalf of the Board of Education and the school district, I'd like to welcome all of you. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Pam Yoder. I'm the district administrator. And I will say this is probably one of the events that is, for me, the most honorable to be able to open. Because it really is an opportunity for the school and the community to come together and to honor our history and people that have been part of this district and supported this district and are remembered for the amazing things that they did for our students and staff. And as I read the biographies of our 3 inductees, it's very interesting because I'm not sure I could come up with a position or job one of the 3 of them hasn't done or did do at some time, including student. So I think that is amazing in itself. And also, I thought the commonalities of the 3 of them were certainly their love of students, their love of the school district of Belleville, and their commitment to this community. So I am very, very honored to be able to open this ceremony today with our inductees. And so let's give Brad Steiner, Yvonne Reamy, and C.H. Hageman a great big round of applause.
Good morning again. My name is Nate Perry. I am the middle and high school principal here in Belleville. And again, like Mrs. Yoder said, welcome to our Wildcat Wall of Fame ceremony for 2019. Our inductees today will join John Becker, Nancy Fay, and then we have a couple that are here today that I'm always happy to see that they have come back. Mr. Freitag, hi Mr. Freitag, you want to wave to the audience, was inducted last year, and Barb Funza, hi Barb, in the back, is also here. So our three inductees today will join those that are already up on the wall at the west entrance. You may have come in the main entrance, at the west entrance, the athletic entrance, and that'll bring our total number of inductees to 7 up on the Wildcat Wall of Fame in just a short amount of time. My job today is to tell those of you that don't know much about the Wildcat Wall of Fame a little bit about its brief history. So, the Wildcat Wall of Fame committee is made up of 3 community members, 3 staff members, 3 students, and 2 school board members. And if they are in attendance this morning, I want to take a moment to recognize them, and we'll talk a little bit about that. It's really been the same team, except for 1 or 2 students, from the very beginning for about a year and a half or so. And they continue to serve because for all of us, this is a project that we're very passionate about. So I know many of them are here. From the community, our community members are Bart Morick. Bart's here in his track pullover. Jerry Reamy, Jerry's here in front. And then Gary Ziegler, Ziggy's in back here. And then 2 of our board members are here today, Jill Reamy and Marion Vinny. They serve on that same board. And then finally, Betty, I know Betty's here someplace. Where's Betty? All right, she's in the office maybe. And then Mr. Hodgson is actually teaching a civics class right now. He plays a role in that as well. And then our students, I think they're all here today. Amanda Letman, Michaela Steckles, and then Lexi Walker were our student representatives. They come to meetings, they give us their input and what they see for the people that are going into the wall. So it really is a group effort. This year, we met 6 times from October to April. And then from the start of this committee's work in the summer of 2017 until now, we received 40 nominations on 24 different candidates. This year was fantastic because we got more and more, and we're starting to, even the committee, learn about people that others really value that have put into either Belleville or the school district of Belleville. So what we do is the Wildcat Wall of Fame Committee reviews all the current nominations. We consider multiple nominations from the previous year. And then there's a research phase to this. And that is the job of the high school's Young Politicians Club. If you were part of the Young Politicians Club, will you just put your hand up in the air? There's quite a few of them that were involved in this process. And so under the direction of Mr. Hodgson, they have conducted 10 interviews in the last 2 years of our finalists. And then they bring back names to the board that they recommend. The committee then brings to the school board. These students, which 3 of them again are on the committee, really do a fantastic job. We really try to promote that students are a large part of this process. On Monday, April 8th, we brought 3 names to the school board, and those are the people that you see up on stage today. Those were approved at the board meeting on April 8th. So Greg Hageman is here representing his father, C.H. Hageman, Yvonne Reamy, and Brad Steiner. One thing I wanted to mention is that although there's an online version of the nomination, there's also now a station by the Wildcat Wall of Fame where you can put in a ballot. We don't forget about those that have been nominated in the past, so we continue to look back at those and we'll consider them for the future. There are 3 criteria that go into the Wildcat Wall of Fame. You either have to be a Belleville High School graduate, a school staff member, or a community member or volunteer. And what's really exciting about the group that's up here today is that there really, as Mrs. Yoder said, a combination of all 3 of those requirements. This morning, you'll hear from a Belleville High School graduate whose father probably did more to establish, grow, and lead the district than any other person. A man whose name is synonymous with the school district of Belleville. You'll hear from, you're going to make me cry now, Jill. Jill's crying already. You'll hear from a Belleville High School valedictorian who went on to influence countless children who passed through the elementary school. And then finally, you'll hear from a staff member who spent his entire teaching career in Belleville, shaping the middle school and developing an incredibly high standard for Belleville athletics. So, We invited the class, now that I'm hopefully over being emotional here, we invited the class of 2019 to join us. They have 6 days left of high school after this. So it's an exciting time for them. One of the reasons that we invite them to this ceremony is they see, especially with the 3 people that you see up on the stage today, what is gained from a life of service. Service to their community and service to the school district of Belleville. As somebody that has worked in education for quite a long time, when you do that and you put that much time and effort into your job, it does take away from the things that you want to do with your own families and your personal time. So there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into that. And I'm hoping that the seniors see that today and they reach out to those that have influenced them over the last 6 to 4 years, maybe just your high school years, and let people know how much they have meant to you. I don't know, is Gary here? Gary Solomon? Hi, Gary. Gary didn't know I was going to mention him. I was talking to a teacher today, actually yesterday, Mr. Hodgson. Mr. Hodgson, for those of you that know him pretty well, is usually pretty intense. Gary, I don't know if you know this, Gary made him cry with a letter that Gary wrote him just talking about the influence that he had on his last couple of years. So it does mean a lot, seniors, that you do that. Before we get started, I want to thank a couple of people. First of all, thank you to the Wildcat Wall of Fame Committee. Mr. Hodgson, as I mentioned, is teaching right now, but thank you to Mr. Hodgson for his leadership of the Young Politicians Club. Together they participated as committee members, and then they researched the finalists, helping to craft the biographies that you see on the plaques today and that will go up on the wall at the west entrance. I don't think Mr. Benash is here. Mr. Benash is our high school art teacher, and when we started to talk about maybe in the middle of the year about who might come up as finalists, he said, because he did the drawings last year, he said, you know, I think I've got 3 people that could do the drawings this year. And so I know Luke Kelly is here. Luke's here. I'm going to wait for the crowd. Luke Kelly. Is Bella Miller here? I didn't see Bella. Is Bella here? There's Bella. And then Maddie Weber. I know Maddie is here as well. Those 3 did the portraits that you see up here. And actually, if you look in your programs, those are their drawings, our very own student drawings. They did a fantastic job with those, so we wanted to recognize them as well. They actually signed those, so in years to come, they can look at the Wildcat Wall of Fame and see their own signatures on those drawings. And then finally, to Mr. Newman, I know Mr. Newman is teaching right now as well, and the trade students, they created the replica plaques that are up that that our finalists and our inductees will receive today. There'll be zinc plaques that will go up on the wall, but they'll be able to take these home today with them. It really is a combination of working together with the community, staff, and students. So we're very proud of this moment. So without further ado, I would like to invite Michaela Steckless to the podium at this time to introduce today's first Wildcat Wall of Fame inductee, C.H. Hagan.
Quote, C.H. Hageman was one of many people at the school that helped shape me. I'm not sure where I'd be without him. Gary Ziegler. This is a statement that is nearly unanimously agreed upon. Clarence Hageman's influence on those around him was widespread, helping all he encountered in Belleville. Those who remembered Mr. Hageman will remember him as talented across the board, being a teacher, football coach, principal, and community member. C.H. Hageman was a leader in the village of Belleville. Not only was he principal for 25 years, but he initiated the effort to consolidate the country schools to bring kids to the Belleville School District. He continued to be active in the community club after his retirement. Mr. Hageman was always there for those who needed him, from coaching the football team to later helping students get home after being stranded in Argyle after a football game by driving to get them himself. During his time as principal, he was known for being a fair and caring individual. Mr. Hageman ran the school exceptionally well and created a positive environment for students and faculty. Everyone that worked with Mr. Hageman always came away with respect for him, as he really cared about his work. Anyone could see that. Even after graduation, Mr. Hegeman would assist students by giving them jobs and opportunities within the district to better themselves as he did for Bartmore. His involvement with the people of our town was continuous throughout his time in Belleville, appearing at all events which students participated in to cheer them on, and working with the community club for various events. The school never left the watchful eye of Mr. Hegeman. He kept watch over it from his backyard, memorably protecting the roof of the school from the class of 1970 and their outhouse schemes. His love for the school district was heartfelt, and honoring him with a spot on the Wildcat Wall of Fame is all too appropriate.
We've asked all three inductees if they'd like to address not only the audience that is here, but the class of 2019 and our seniors. So, Greg, if you'd like to come up to the podium and say a few words, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, first off, to the committee and for selecting my father. I'm very prejudiced, but I think it's a nice thing that you did. I think it's a good thing. My father was a people person. If there was one outstanding attribute he had, that was it. He was born 100 years ago this year, which is kind of a neat thing. Not too far from here, in Verona. I have to make one political statement here and say, in Verona, the home of the pseudo Wildcats, and real Wildcats. Sorry, I just couldn't let that out. He grew up in Verona, was the valedictorian of his high school class, went on to college at Mission House, which is now known as Lakeland College, and was looking for a job after he graduated. Jobs back in those days weren't real widespread. So he worked for a year in Janesville at a YMCA. And a lot of what he did there was work with troops from that were part of the preparatory forces in World War II. And he was kind of a physical education coordinator for them. Many of them, as I understand it, were coming up to this area, to northern Illinois, to train as glider pilots. And he was kind of in charge of providing entertainment and keeping them on the straight and narrow, which was kind of a 24-hour-a-day job, as you might imagine, a bunch of young guys in a kind of a strange area. So the next year, he had an opportunity to come to Belleville and apply for a job as a coach, which he did, and was fortunate to receive the job. He, I think, like most young people, looked at Belleville as a kind of a starting point, a place where he could go and maybe establish himself and then move on to something, maybe a little bigger and better. He never did that. He got here and he found out that the bigger and the better was right here. Sorry, I didn't think this was going to bother me, but it is. He started out as the coach. He was a math instructor and the coach. He coached football, basketball, baseball, track, and men's volleyball at that time. Looking back at the records, he coached for 8 years, and his football teams had about just under a 75% coaching, and between the kids and himself, they turned out some pretty decent teams. Doing some research, I also found out that in 1949, the boys volleyball team took second in the state in that sport. So that was kind of a nice thing too. Something that I really didn't know until I started looking into some of these things. As successful as he was as a coach, I think his main success here came as an administrator. He had an opportunity in the early 1950s to move into administration and leave the coaching ranks behind. But that was, the coaching part of his life was something that he really never did leave behind, I don't think. He always looked for a way to be a member of a team, whether it was the football team, whether it was the school itself, whether it was working with the wonderful school board people that he had over the years to work with. He always liked to be part of a team. Working for the community club and various endeavors, Belleville Area Cultural Foundation, that was always an important part of his life, was to be part of the team, and if he could, provide some learning experiences along the way. When he went into the administrative area in the early 1950s, there were actually two school boards that he had to deal with. The elementary school in town had its own school board, and the high school had its own school board. So that was something that occasionally there was a little conflict of interest there that had to be worked out. And that was one of the things he was good at, working those things out. So the 1960s came around, and that was kind of an interesting time for a lot of smaller schools in the state, because everybody was trying to establish themselves as a school system. There were a lot of small schools. There were a lot of country schools, a lot of rural schools. And there was a lot of competition at that point, because a lot of the rural schools, if you look at this area around here, there are a lot of communities that are, 10, 15 miles away. These rural schools were all situated in between Belleville and those communities. And Belleville really wanted those kids to come into the Belleville school system for various reasons, one of which, without a doubt, was the fact that the number of your state aid was based on the number of students that you had. And the more students you had, the more money you were awarded, and consequently, the more you could do for your students with that money. And that was kind of a big thing. Everybody was looking at this, and there were a lot of hours spent kind of in a two-phase plan. One was wooing the board members from the various country schools to try to have them see that Belleville was the best place for their kids to come. And the second part of that was trying to stave off the big bad wolves that existed in the form of folks like Douglas and Montmore and Verona and all of the school districts around. We have a couple of people in the audience today that I'll recognize just as I say that. John Sales and Benny Wolf. One of the boundary lines was drawn right down the main street in Gilli. And if you lived on the south side of the main street there, you came to Belleville. If you lived on the north side, you went to Verona. And Betty's and John's families lived on the north side, and they said, "No way, Jack, come to Belleville." So, and that was a good thing. Recognize John also. John's a second generation school board member here Betty's father, I think when my dad was coaching, he always said he had the benefit of two teams, two good teams. He had one on the field, and I think Betty's father and a couple other guys kind of roamed the stands, and they were his second team. Anybody said anything bad about Belleville, they set them straight. So it was another team that he counted on heavily. So once the school system was established, Dad turned to trying to make it the best school system that he could, and that involved various means. The facilities here were improved several times during his tenure, and again, that was in order to try to provide the best education that he could for the kids. Facilities, science facilities for learning, teachers, enlarging the faculty, getting the faculty the best education that they could get. I'm not 100% sure, but I think one of the reasons that we're here today in this particular room on this particular location is because he and the school boards of those at that time bought this land when they had an opportunity, so that it was here for the future expansion for the school district to move, or the school facilities to move westward. I guess I don't want to go on here too much longer. We have two more folks that would like to come up and address you, so I'm going to kind of stop right there. But just say that he would be very happy if he could be here today. I wish he were instead of me, to come in and see this facility and what the school system has become, and to see the awards that the kids have received here on behalf of themselves, both in terms of academics, literature, the arts, as well as the athletic part of it. That was a big thing to him, was a well-rounded education. And I remarked on the way in this morning to my wife that I like the logo that the school has: Discover, Engage, and Archive. And we've got the different facets of education here. So I guess in summing up, what I'd like to say is that in addressing the seniors specifically, is if you have an opportunity as you go out into life to volunteer, to serve, to be a part of a team, be that team a community or a group, even just a family group, take those opportunities and do that. Don't just look at your job. Look at having a rounded life and a life that you can look back on and enjoy. And I'd like to say that I think one of the other things, if my dad could be here, that he would enjoy being up here with these other two individuals. They're both individuals that he worked with, that he thought highly of, and he would be proud to be indoctrinated into this Wall of Fame along with these folks. So, thank you.
If we can now have Jenna Banfield, Hansi Bartle, and Cecilia Grafsheim to the stage to present Brad Stein.
We are here today not only to add a name to the Wildcat Hall of Fame, but to thank Brad Steiner for the devotion and service he's put into the school district himself. Brad grew up in the Monroe area and was familiar with Belleville from a young age. However, he never would have guessed how important he would end up being to Almost immediately after arriving, Brad immersed himself in the Belleville community, becoming an assistant coach to both the volleyball and boys basketball teams, as well as creating programs that would later become Park Science and Harvey Days. Only a year later, in 1977, Brad was named head coach of the girls basketball team. Over the next 15 years, he went on to lead the girls to 7 state line league titles. During the spring of 1978, Brad became the girls and boys track coach, leading them to win multiple conference titles until 1991. The organizational approaches Brad instilled in the track and field program are still used today, allowing our meets to run seamlessly.
We want to mention some of the things Brad's nominators had to say about him. Mark Moore said, "Brad has always been the type to step up and do the job. I am not certain awards or honors are really important to him. Relationships and doing the right thing are." Some of the words that came to mind when thinking of Brad were dedicated, organized, caring, kind, and a positive influence. Barb Funseth also had to say, Brad just wants what's best for every student. I don't know anyone who would have anything bad to say about him." Although Brad contributed to the school in a plethora of ways, he was also involved in community activities such as when he served as a Boy Scout troop scoutmaster. Brad's influence on the community of Belleville is undeniable. He has helped out in many areas of our community time after time, expecting no reward for himself. Bart Moore also mentioned his role in the Boy Scouts was one that he picked up simply because the Scouts needed a leader, and he stepped forward. And while he was teaching in Belleville, the principal, Roger Moore, had a minor stroke, and Brad stepped up and acted as the intern principal during that time. We think it's safe to say that awards are not something Brad expects, but this award is one he truly deserves. We would like to thank Brad for his commitment and dedication to our community and school, and congratulate him on his induction to the Wildcat Hall of Fame.
When Brad and I were emailing back and forth, he said he had a few things to say, but it might be off the cuff, so Brad.
Definitely off the cuff. I want to recognize Clarence Joel Hageman by honoring his son today, Greg. As most of you probably know, he was quite the runner, enjoyed running, and he helped develop the track program during his era. Well, today I'm going to present to him a track alumni shirt that many of us wear very proudly, because track is one of those individual sports, but yet very much a team sport. Greg, may you wear this when you're jogging the streets of your homeland. 41 years to the school district. What an icon. The elementary school was run by this young lady. And we'll never forget her enthusiasm for an owie. Children would come in from the playground, being sent in, and she jumped up, no matter what she was doing at her desk, and would give them a hug, dry the tears, apply first aid, and then said, "Is there anything else I can do for you? Oh, would you give me a drink of water?" And she would do that. When adults came into the building looking for a classroom, she reached out, directed them, guided them. I could go on and on. But what she really was known for was being a very positive person. And I want to honor her with the power, this here shirt at Belleville, positive students and teachers and employees. enough. I came home. My mom and dad gave me a big hug and said, find a job. So I said, well, can I wait till tomorrow? And they said, yeah, but you have to sleep on the couch because all the beds will fill. So I rested, got up in the morning, Mom made me a really nice breakfast, and I jumped in the car, and I drove up to Madison to the Teacher Placement Bureau, and lo and behold, a little town called Belleville had just posted an opening for an elementary teacher for a 1-year leave of absence by Mrs. Leon, 6th grade. I turned to my dad and I go, you know where Belleville is? Yeah, that's that town that's on the other end of 69. Because people from Monroe, when they drive to Madison, they turn on PB and take PB across and pick up 69 there in Peola. Not many went through Belleville. But I got in the car and drove up, went to the office and walked in and I said, I'd like to speak to Mr. Fitch. And he must have heard me because all of a sudden he came around the corner from his office and he looked at me. And he looked at me again. He goes, Brad Steiner? And I went, yeah? What are you doing here? Well, Mr. Fitch, I heard you're looking for a teacher, and I'd like to apply for the position of 6th grade teacher for 1 year. So he took me in the back room and sat me down, and he goes, well, let's go over a few things, and we did. And then he said, why don't you run downtown, go to Fischel's, introduce yourself to Norm Fischel, and have one of his burgers. In the back of my mind, I just kind of melted. Is this guy just shoving me out the door, or what? But I did as he told me. I walked downtown, walked to Fischel's, and walked in the door and sat down. And this guy came up, and he goes, Brad, what are you doing here? I'm going, wow, who is this guy? Are you Norm Fischel? Well, yeah, I own this bar, and I know you from basketball. I talk basketball all the time with all the UW coaches. They come down here to drink beer with me because they can't drink in Madison. And we ended up talking up a storm. He made me one of the better burgers I've ever had. I was hungry. And you know what? I had a beer. He said, you can't come to Fischel's without having beer. Well, I killed off about 2 hours talking UW basketball and the area, sports, and time went by and I got back in my car and I drove up to school thinking, oh, this is going to be the end, you know. He'll just say, oh, sorry, I just hired somebody. I walked in the door and he met me and he took me back to his office and he held up a piece of paper. I looked at it. I looked at it and I said, is that a contract, Mr. Fitch? Yes. We would like to have you take this 1 year leave of absence, and besides, you have to coach volleyball as an assistant coach, and you have to coach basketball under Mr. Wick, who we just hired from Elroy, helped him get his program going, and then in the spring, I want you to be a starter for the track team. I said, yes, sir. And my position and my career at Belleville began, and what a joy. I stayed here all 32 years, and I don't regret any of it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I love Belleville. And maybe there's another reason why I love Belleville. I found one of your own. I met a young lady named Jacob is married to Ellen Brenda Benson's oldest daughter from Oregon, Megan. Jacob and Megan are living in Oregon, have a nice, beautiful home they're working on and selling in, and both work. Life is good in Oregon, Wisconsin. Our daughter, Rachel, very adventuresome, a lot like the dad. She traveled. She's in Brussels, Belgium. She's enrolled at the University of Brussels, studying sociology. She also has a good friend there, and she is working part-time as an au pair. For those of you who don't know what an au pair is you are assigned a family, you move in with them, and take care of their children. Oh, babysitter. No, Dad. Au pair. And it's working out very well for her. And we're extremely happy, and she made it home last Christmas, and she brought a man. So that was kind of cool, too. We met Rudy for the first time, and now we receive pictures. This FaceTime thing is incredible. We can look at each other, put a box around any one of you, put a box around my face, and talk to each other as if they're in the same room. Great invention. And then the email system is also pretty cool to exchange pictures and conversation. And yeah, it's working. And she's doing it, and she loves it. And Ellen and I are so happy that she wants to educate herself, which is very important today. And our youngest just graduated from the University of North Dakota Fighting Hawks. He just is finishing up his student teaching at the original Wildcat territory. Oh. The second Wildcat territory. But he's had a very, very good experience, and now he's on the job hunt and doing very well for himself, and life is good at the Steiner family. I'd like to quickly just share some other tidbits about some close friends that I've developed over the years. One of them is a group of guys, state track volunteers. A group of guys led by Bart Morey, John Reamy, Dave Reamy, oh yeah, Gary Ziegler, Joel Jacob. We really found a nice niche to hang out for 3 days, 2 nights in La Crosse, Wisconsin, right along the river, and reconnect on a yearly basis. What a great time. WIA just honored me for my 40 years of volunteering, and it's been 2 years now, and I miss it. I miss my friends so very much. But we do cross paths every so often. Then I have another Belleville friend who has known me almost from the get-go, Bill Stussy. Him and I became real good friends, and then we coached together and hung out together, and then one day we were driving down to Judah for a basketball game, and this pretty girl got in the bus with us and sat with Bill, named Sherry. And the two of them talked all the way to Judah, all the way back, and you know what that led to. And I appreciate all that Bill did with me. He let me share stuff about myself. He shared stuff about himself. He played the trombone at the UW band at the University of Wisconsin. And it's just been a wonderful long-term relationship. In closing, I just want to say a huge thank you to the world of Motivation and commitment. Two key words that will surface with you when you graduate. If you look at your administration, Mr. President in particular, what a motivated individual. What a committed individual. He reached out to us. He informed us about stuff. We felt like we were visiting him in his office. What a great administrator. And as time goes along, he may not stay here forever, but I hope that he does, because he is a good example of motivation and commitment. And I hope each and every one of you seniors takes time to get to know him even better, and not as a discipline situation. We have been very fortunate over the years, and I thank each and every one of you, seniors, I wish you the very, very best, and God bless. Thank you.
One of the great things about my job is in this process, we had to do a lot of research on CH, and so Greg and I got emailing and calling back and forth, and we got to know each other a little bit, and I learned a lot about his dad. And then Brad and I got emailing and calling back and forth, trying to make sure everything was correct on his plaque, and I got to meet him for the first time. He did send me a bunch of pictures, and I had heard that he was a tall guy. The first picture that he sent me was of he and Bill Stussy, and I knew Bill, and Bill's a big guy, and then Brad was like a foot taller than him, and I thought, holy cow, this is really a big dude. So it's been a pleasure in this process, and then same thing with our last inductee, we'll come up in a minute with Yvonne Remy, going back and forth with her son John, and trying to get things right on her plaque. It's been a learning experience for me to get to know all these people that made Belleville such a great place to be. So, last but not least, I'll invite Amanda Lettman, Mason Schwegler, and Alexis Walker to the stage to present Yvonne Remy.
Good morning. From a young age, Yvonne Remy has devoted many years of her life to the Belleville School District and to the community as a whole. As a lifelong Belleville resident, Yvonne graduated valedictorian of her class in 1956. Having been involved in cheerleading and forensics, holding a position both as band officer and class officer, and being selected to attend Badger Girls State, Yvonne has been involved in her school and community long before her career as a secretary. Being the selfless woman that she is, Yvonne chose to remain in Belleville to work to help her family rather than attending college. This selflessness is displayed in other post-high school activities she is involved in, such as the Catholic Women's Club, bookkeeping for her local churches, Kiwanis Club, and holding confirmation classes at her church. Yvonne then continued her career into the Belleville School District, serving 30 years as a secretary and kindergarten aide. Yvonne's contagious mindset of putting others before herself has had a lasting effect on her colleagues, family, and friends. Her gentle nature and attitude has shaped a loving mother, grandmother, and community member. She may not think herself deserving of this nomination on the Wildcat Wall of Fame, but it is with great pride and happiness that Amanda Lettman, Mason Schwegler, and I were able to research, exhibit, and induct such an amazing and influential woman into the Wildcat Wall of Fame.
Can you hear me? That's the important thing. Wow. I'm taking a deep breath. I brought my depend on that. But maybe a little bit I can. First of all, this is a very humbling moment for me. Like I said originally, my thought was to speak off the cuff. But then on second thought, I decided to revisit my high school forensics extemporaneous reading skills. So bear with me. I want to thank, first of all, I'm going to do my thanks first because you know how that goes at the end. You might forget something here. I want to thank that Belleville High School's Young Politicians Club, the School District of Belleville, to the entire Wildcat Wall of Fame Committee for this honor. I'm humbled to be among this class of inductees. Mr. Hageman, sorry, I never could call him CH. And Mr. Brad Steiner, as well as the previous recipients, Mr. Becker, Mr. Prite, Nancy Fay, and Barb Funset. Barb, I'm so glad you could be here today. As well as previous recipients, whoops, I've already said that. See? And my thanks to my immediate family, Jerry, my husband, Dave and Tina are here, and John and Jill, and my grandsons, Andrew and Ben, and of course the other two grandsons live in Stoughton and they're in school today. I think these boys got permission, special permission to be here. My brother John and Linda Jennen, and my nephew Tim Doyle. Thank you so much. My remaining siblings, spread throughout the United States, wishing they were here, are Catherine Doyle, Louis, who we call Willie Jennen, Jane Turner, and Jean, who we called Bino. Lots of pages, but big writing and double strokes. Should go along here. So, I am fortunate to be one of 6 siblings, still all living. And I guess I thought I would never see 80. I have. And to see all my siblings be still here, it's terrific. Also want to thank Father Ken Klink and Father McMoon, my economizers, homemakers, Kiwanis friends, present and retired teachers and support staff, alumni, and parents for being here today and your support for this event. Much was conveyed in that introduction. I'm still a little shaky. But I would like to fill in a chapter leading up to where I am today. And it precedes my being involved in the school system. And it goes like this. Mr. Hageman, never comfortable calling him CH, was the district administrator and principal when I was in high school. In 1956, just prior to graduation, he approached me, wondering what my summer plans were. Like all graduating seniors, we were looking for jobs. College was in the plan for me. However, circumstances at that time necessitated postponing fall entrance. He indicated Dick Gilbert, manager of Pet Milk Company in Belleville, was looking for a secretary, receptionist, and suggested I apply, which I did and was hired. That job lasted full-time for 7 years and summers for an additional 4 years. Great people to work for and with. while learning to work diligently and staying on task. I loved that job. Upperclassmen and many others, if you listen closely, some may recognize familiar names, their roots. I realize this goes back a long time ago, but just maybe. In retrospect, I considered the on-the-job experience with the office staff, manager Roy Olson, Helen Bumgarner, Janice Rupp, Rosemary Mannion, Kenny McSherry, and Russ Reuter probably prepared me as well as most college courses could have for my venture with the school district of Belleville. I never did go to college, not unusual for girls in that time. However, not so today. Marrying in 1963, and once my boys were in school, I began looking for a job. With the building of the new middle school, and thinking there would be a need for an additional secretary, I interviewed with Mr. Fitch for a possible position. He indicated the 7th through 12th secretaries, Mrs. Argue and Mrs. Ryan, both at the high school, would be splitting up and assuming duties as the two respective buildings, or at the two respective buildings. Mrs. Rupert was at the elementary school. As I was leaving the interview, I mentioned if by chance any teacher aide position would open up, I would be interested. A few days later, I got a call. He said there would be a position as a kindergarten aide with Mrs. Della Bile in the POI school location. Thus, in 1972, with board approval, I began my journey with the school district of Belleville. In 1973, Mrs. Argue retired. Mrs. Ryan went to the middle school, Mrs. Rupert went to the high school, and I became the elementary school secretary. For me personally, the children came first. They had to be kept safe and cared for. This meant do whatever it takes. It took the full cooperation and caring from the wonderful teaching staff, all support staff, including all bus drivers, Barb and Leo, and many others left their stamp. Children home safe. At the elementary school, not running things, but literally running, often in heels, no intercom, no bus radios, many phone calls and messages requiring lots of footwork. A shift of crossing guard duty while other staff manned the phone. We made do. Everyone worked as a team. It was everyone's goal to maintain a safe environment. Having a split-time maintenance janitorial staff, I became acquainted with the mop and pail. And yes, you guessed what that was for. My first aid skills required having heaps of ice packs, soap and water, Band-Aids, tweezers, sticks for head lice checks, tissues to wipe tears, and sometimes just giving a hug to cure the child's ill. And if necessary, even a hug or two for staff. As time went on, with increasing enrollment, Mr. Leacher became a principal and was assigned between the middle and elementary schools. Now, what was I to do? Thankfully, after approaching him in distress, he assured me to carry on as usual. If the system isn't broken, don't try to fix it. And when Betty, a jack of all trades, started at elementary and was stationed in her corner in the office and provided additional help when not on playground, bus loading, or helping out in the classroom. I'm sure that still sounds familiar. Never an idle moment for her. She was a lifesaver for me. When first hired, my job description included both district paid hours as elementary secretary, plus federally funded hours paid for the Title I reading program under Mrs. Madeline Stussey's direction. Kindergarten screening was developed under her guidance, and I was fortunate to be part of that experience, meeting the little ones and their parents. Generally, I was willing to take on anything asked of me, with exceptions. I did not do bats and was reluctant with mice. That's where John Zentner, Bill Butts, John Vile, or Mr. Lacher had to take over. After 25 years, I was saddened to leave the elementary children and staff, but knew they were in good hands with Betty as the new secretary. I loved the children. I loved my job. The move to the intermediate second through sixth grades went smoothly. Luckily, I was joined by Debbie Netteshine, who became the assistant secretary. There were some familiar teachers from the elementary era, and many new welcoming staff. Among them, Mr. Brad Steiner. This all goes in the circle here, doesn't it? It was nice to have a male teacher in the building, and who to this day remembers birthdays, holidays, and special occasions with lovely emails. The transition was easier than I had anticipated. Many of the same duties, but with additional help from a hands-on nurse, Trish Paris. She made my life easier. I loved the children. I loved my job. To all of the secretarial staff and support staff who have helped me along the way, I am grateful. To Sharon Moss and Mr. Freeze for going the extra step at the final days before my retirement. And they know what that is. And my attention goes to the graduating students, the seniors. Congratulations as you complete your senior year and begin preparing for what lies ahead. I wish you the best. Work hard, play hard, be safe, be aware of and involved in community service. Remember your roots. Don't forget your elders. They were young once, but might need a helping hand now. Nothing out of the ordinary, just something you do. The little things to make life or a task a bit easier for others, or even yourself. Consider it an extension of your wildcat pride. During my 25 years as elementary secretary and 5 at the middle school, I recall going to work in the morning happy and coming home from work happy. I loved my job. To me, it was more like a vocation. Recalling Father Clink's comment once on the sermon length said, keep it short. If longer than 9 minutes, you might lose them. This wasn't indeed to be a sermon, but I may have lost you. And Father Nick, thank you for being here. It is a good thing you can handwrite sermons quicker than it took me to put this together. And again, thanks for being here. Father Ray Wonder once would have been pleased, I think. Once, after giving me a gift for something I had done for him, and my reply being, "No, I don't want anything," he scolded me. "Yvonne, just learn to say thank you when someone gets you something." Being a slow learner, it has taken a few years. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Before Marion wraps up here today, I just wanted to invite the students that were part of the presentation and those that did the artwork, if you could stick around, we'd like to get some photos of you with our 3 inductees today.
Good morning. On behalf of the Belleville Board of Education, I want to thank you for attending the induction ceremony. Yvonne Reedy, Fred Steiner, and C.H. Hegeman, represented by his family, devoted a total of 106 years of service to the families of Belleville, the school district, and to the community of Belleville, making Belleville a better place to learn and making Belleville a better place to live. In the words of Winston Churchill, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life of what we give. And another quote by John Rohn: "Whoever renders service to many puts himself in line for greatness, great wealth, great return, great satisfaction, great reputation, and great joy." Thank you, Brad, Yvonne, and C.H. Hegeman for your dedication to the families of Belleville. Congratulations to the seniors and the staff of the school district of Belleville. Your devotion has left a legacy. This is the Wildcat way.
We will have group photos at this time, seniors. I don't want to go back to class, but it is second block.